She's like, I see your heart in this publication, and I think your heart is home. And I think you're a little afraid to push it further into that because maybe you're worried it won't, hit a mark somewhere or something. But she's like, I think you need to go in the direction that I feel it pulling anyway, which I assume is your heart. And she was right. So I'm, crying on the phone with this woman from Anthropologie who I've never met. And I took her advice and went back to the drawing board, did a second version. And not that Anthropologie is the be all end all, but that was a goal to hit, and we hit it. And I was proud of that.
Welcome to Business with Purpose. I am your host, Molly Stillman, and this show is all about bringing you the stories behind the brands, the companies, and the small businesses that are changing the world. Each week, I get to sit down with an incredible entrepreneur, business leader, community activist, author, speaker, or just an amazing person who is trying to make a positive impact, not only through their personal life, but also with their career. My goal is to show you, the listener, that no matter what you do, you can make an impact. My guest this week is Liz Bell-Young. She is an author, experience designer, and creative director in Cincinnati, Ohio. With lots of elbow grease and coloring slightly outside the lines, Liz has become a senior contributing writer for Magnolia, Artifact, Uprising, and Procter & Gamble. Liz created her own print publication with friends, Haven Magazine, distributed by over 80 Anthropologie stores. She then co-designed a camping retreat for 2,000 women every year in rural Ohio. She's an MFA graduate of the School of the Art Institute of Chicago and University of Cincinnati, where Liz blends the worlds of design, installations, language, and emotion in all the projects she can get her hands on. Liz, her husband, and 3 children are currently building a home and guest space, while Liz writes a book about the creative process of building havens. I was so excited to have Liz on the show. We have a mutual friend and agent in common in Joy Eggridge-Reed. And I just really like to interview people that have like 3 names, Liz Bell-Young, Joy Eggridge-Reed. In any event, I love Liz so much. She is so funny. She's really wise. And we had a really, really fun conversation. And it was funny at the end of the recording, she had even said, I didn't even feel like I was on a podcast. I just felt like I was hanging out with somebody that I knew for a really long time. And I said, well, that's the goal. So I hope that you just take the opportunity to sit back, relax, and feel like you're hanging out with 2 friends and enjoy my conversation with Liz Bell-Young. I'm really excited in particular for this episode because I'm just going to recap the fiasco to get to this point, because I just feel like for so often we listen to podcasts and we just think that everything is great. and that everything just works when you turn it on. But no, my sweet guest, Liz Bell-Young, has been so patient, and we're starting like almost 30 minutes after we were supposed to, because yours truly was having some serious technological issues today. Took me nearly 30 minutes to do something as simple as restarting my computer. So, but we are here.
We're here.
We are ready. And I'm so excited about this. Liz, welcome to the show. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Molly. Thank you.
So you and I got connected because we have the same literary agent in Joy Eggridge-Reed. And for some of my listeners, they're probably like, how many people are represented by Joy? Cause it seems like you've had a lot of them on. Not actually that many, but I do have quite a few people that I've had on recently that we share an agent, and part of that is just because she represents really cool people, and I'm just giving us extra cool points or something like that.
Self-congratulatory.
Yes,
but she's amazing.
She is amazing. She is amazing. And so when I get to talk with somebody that, we've never met prior to 29 minutes ago when I texted you and was like, hey, gonna be a few minutes late. I feel like when you get the opportunity to meet somebody and you have that commonality, like they're that person in common, you're just like, all right, I think we're cool. We're automatically, it gives us street cred.
I know. It's the kindred spirit vibe. And
exactly.
It's really comforting.
It is. Okay. So let's dive right in. Give us the Liz Bell-Young 101. Who you are, what you do, and tell us how you got to where you are today.
Oh, sure. Yep. Liz Bell-Young. Very simple, 1 syllable at a time. Actually, I am an Elizabeth, but I had such a hard time saying that as a kid that I just gave up and went with Liz forever and ever. Amen. So I live in Cincinnati, Ohio with my husband, Ryan, and we have 3 kids and a turtle who apparently is going to outlive all of us. I was just told. We have a lot of family in Cincinnati, which is why we're here. 2 of my sisters are actually our neighbors right now. And so family is a huge part integrated into every day of our lives. We did actually live in another country for 4 years. So my husband was in the military and we lived overseas. The Army sent us to Italy, which was wildly lucky. I don't think I can promise that for every Army family out there. But we did luck out. And so we stayed there for a few years and then moved along to Chicago when I went back to school to become a writer. And then we circled back to Cincinnati after that. So I'm a creative writer and I design experiences. I worked for a big church for about 11 years and kind of got to, spread my wings there and train and really get into the whole world of 3-dimensional creative experiences, which I loved so much. And now I'm just full-time freelance. Well, not really full-time because it's part-time, but I am a full-time freelancer. And what else? I'm working on a book too, like you, Molly.
Yes.
And I drive a van. I'm pretty darn tall. And I noticed I have 1 fingernail painted. So I have 9 more to go, but it's just, it's been a week.
So, wow. Okay. There's obviously a lot I want to unpack. But I need to unpack first the elephant in the room. And that is did you start painting your nails at 1 and then you just gave up? You just said, this is too much. I can't.
Just got distracted, I mean, young children and I can't find that color anywhere. And I loved that color. And so I just gave up.
Fantastic. I love it. I think that should be your thing. From now on, you're just 1 painted nail and everybody goes is this a creative choice? And you just say, yes. Yes.
Okay. Yeah. It's probably pretty representative actually.
I love it. Okay. So you went back to school for writing. I want to talk about that because my undergraduate degree, I went a very, a common route that most people go. And that is I went to school, a musical theater major and wanted to be on Saturday Night Live. And then I changed majors to creative writing. So that's what everybody does. Right. I went to school also for creative writing, even though that wasn't what I had originally planned. What made you make the choice to go back to school for writing? What is your, because I like logistics questions, what is your degree actually in? Is it just went back to Liz Bell Young, went back to school for writing and here's a paper that proves that? What does it say?
No, it's actually, so I started in social work. That was my undergrad. And I did that. Okay. So even though I always wanted to be a writer, Little Women, Joe in the Attic, always had that dream, let me be a novelist. I think when I was, late in my teen years, I just thought, that could be a pretty lonely life. I might get depressed. I'm a little worried it could feel too selfish or inward for me. And so I thought, well, social work will be the way to help take care of people in this world. And so I did that. It was great undergrad. Then we moved overseas. And so that put a pause on everything because that was right out of the gates. We, graduated, got quickly married, and then moved to a different country. While I was there, I recognized, well, one, with the military, you can't work on the economy. So my job options were pretty limited. I worked in a laundromat. That was exciting. I actually loved pushing those buttons.
I love it.
Swing the clothes around. It's exciting. Did a lot of just random jobs trying to figure stuff out, but I could never shake this desire that I really wanted to be a writer and a professional writer and train in it. And so when we wrapped up his tour there, that's when I decided to go to grad school. And so the writing, I started at the school, the Art Institute of Chicago, and they have this really great multidisciplinary program. So while I was working on getting my master's in writing, I was also getting to draw and create installations and do that sort of work at the same time, which I think is always good when you can can do that. I mean, you did the theater writing combo, so you know kind of what I'm talking about there.
Yeah.
So that's how it actually, so the paper does say I have a degree. it's a master's in fine arts and creative writing. So,
well, I love that because I'm always very curious, and I like to just say I am nosy. And so I think that's why I started a podcast, so I can just ask people questions. And even if it's just like, I want to know the logistics behind your degrees. Okay. So the other thing that you said that I was like, okay, I need to know more about this and explain this to me. So this idea of creating 3D creative experiences.
Yeah.
Explain that to me like I'm 5. Like walk me through that. Give me some examples. What does that, because it sounds awesome. And I also don't know what it is.
Well, and I don't know. I think I just made that up on the fly.
No, I love it.
It's not an official thing.
I love it. But no, it's now official. And I love it. That's why I'm like, okay, this is now just like your one painted fingernail. This is now your official thing. And I love it so much. And but I'm like, paint this for me because I have a mind's eye. What's the word for that? When you have like a mind's eye, you see things in your brain.
Oh, I don't know. Wise, brilliant. I don't know.
Yes. Thank you. Yes, I have received that.
That was very good though.
I received that. Okay. Sorry. Continue.
So, as a writer, like you write to create worlds, even if it's nonfiction.
Right.
So I don't just mean like the novel, right? And so I even like as a little kid, I was very interested in building little worlds. So whether that was, in the woods, in a tree, building a little pretend airplane, like things like that. I was always trying to build like little experiences. And I loved to bring sisters or stuffed animals or, now adults into those experiences. And so getting to combine like writing with like this experiential work, I think has been so energizing to me because even though I'm very satisfied with writing, just words on a page will always make me delighted. But when those words can then come into, either like for instance, and I can talk more about this at some point, but like some friends and I designed a camping experience for women. So now you have words on signs, you have words that are coming up in the little guide that they have in their pocket. The words that they hear. So all of it was sort of this integration of like writing with environment and atmosphere and music or video, whatever those elements are.
Yeah. I think that's just fascinating. And while you were talking, the term actually came to me. The people who are unable to see, I guess it's just like, there's people that have a mind's eye, like you're able to visualize and create events in your brain. But then there's like a group of the population. It's a very small percentage, but it's called aphantasia. I think I say it right. But it's basically people who are like unable to visualize any type of image in their head. So like when they read a book, they can't see the characters. They can't see the setting or the scenery or anything like that. Yes. None of that is in there. Or like they can't even picture what their friend looks like in their brain. It's really fascinating. But I didn't even know that this was a thing that existed, because then there's like another end of the spectrum. And this is the one that I can't remember the term for it, but there's people who like, you have a mind's eye, and then there's people who like are really on the other, who have like a super vivid mind's eye, and are able to like create and almost like live an entire world in their brain. And that is me. And it sounds for people listening, they're like, Molly, are you okay? Yeah, I'm not alone. Other people are like this too, but I can, just very vividly create when I read a novel or when I read a story or when I listen to somebody, or just even as you were talking, like I visualize those things. And it sounds like kind of woo woo. And I'm like, no, I promise it's just like what's happening in my brain.
Yes. No, I love that. I love that that's how you are.
I'm curious, like, where on that spectrum do you fall? Do you just kind of like see things in your mind, or do you create like super vivid worlds?
I probably pretty vivid, but I've also, I don't think I'm quite as fantastic as you are in that. I think for me, a lot of times I do a lot of sketching and drawing and writing things down. Like that's how I process. And I just mean even like in the daily way. Like if I'm going to get through my day well, like I'm drawing like a circle to remind me where to go, or a word, or, things like that.
Ooh, yeah.
So
I can't draw. So you have that on me. I love it.
Well, I don't mean I draw well. I just draw.
I'm like, I can draw a stick figure with hair. And it's great. I can put some stick figure shoes on.
Hair is time.
Fascinating. Oh my gosh, I love that. The other thing that you and I have in common, and as you were speaking, so much of what you were kind of illustrating for us is what you were like kind of even as a kid. I was very similar. Like I would create these, and I called them lands. So you called them tiny worlds. Like I called them lands. And so I remember so vividly, this is one of those like super vivid mind's eye memories I have, was for my 8th birthday. My dad had decorated our living room and just had blown up a ton of balloons. And they were helium balloons. And so they were all over the ceiling of our living room. And they had, the strings of the balloons coming down. And they were all over our living room. And I remember walking in, and there was something about it that made me feel like I was in Narnia. And I just walked in and I was like, Daddy, it's a land. And my dad it cracked him up because he'd never heard me say out loud, like the things that I was like, I felt like he was creating in real life the things that I was creating in my mind, was this idea. It's a land. And so I have so many like little memories like that throughout my childhood where I would create these little worlds. And then again, I think that's maybe why I was drawn to theater and acting and comedy and writing, because since I can't draw, since I couldn't be an actual artist, even though I had like dreams, I was like, maybe I can paint. I cannot. God did not gift me with that. I could hopefully create those worlds in through words or through acting or through, even writing song lyrics, whatever it was, like hopefully trying to paint pictures with words for people, whether it was the words I was saying out loud or the words I was writing on a paper. I don't know. Do you know what I mean?
I do. And I love like even just, your dad in that story. And, just having somebody who wants to like create and step into those lands with you. Yeah. And I think that's what we're trying to do as creatives, or I know how much I care about that. I mean, it can't just be for yourself. It gets really old really fast.
Yes.
But I think, I was saying how I started in social work. Well, I realized, after going back into writing, I'm like, no, writing can be social work too. Like writing can help heal people or calm people or bring them to a new place. And so, anyway.
Oh, that is so good. You are so right. And I don't think I've ever really thought of it like that but think about, I don't know how much, as a writer, some writers are also avid readers. Are you an avid reader in addition to being an avid writer?
Yes.
Okay. Same. But it's funny though, because I do know some people who like love to write and don't love to read, which I think is always interesting. But yes, how many times have you read a book or recommended a book to somebody and you're like, this book changed my life, or this book shifted my perspective on, XYZ, or, I will never forget like the first my favorite genre of reading is memoir. And I love just somebody who can write memoir really well. And then now I'm writing a memoir and I am grossly underqualified and very, very intimidated about this because it's my favorite genre. And so now I'm just like put the pressure on. Yes, it is. I'm totally in my own head about this. But I love memoir, and I will never forget like the first memoir that I would say like made me fall in love with the genre and influenced me was The Glass Castle by Jeanette Walls.
Oh my goodness. Incredible.
Yes, it's incredible. The movie did not do it justice at all.
I didn't watch it, but the book.
Yes, the book. Yeah. So if you're like, well, I saw the movie, but I didn't read the book. And I hate to be like one of those, the book was better than the movie, but the book was so much better than the movie. It really transformed my perspective on a lot of things, but just in general, it made me fall in love with that genre. And so I just think about how her words impacted me and, made me think maybe someday I can write something like that, even though it will be nowhere near that. You know what I mean?
Oh, well, I don't know if you're giving yourself enough credit. I can't wait to read what you write.
Oh, well, thanks.
Yeah.
It could be like 2 years from now before it comes out. You never know.
That's okay.
But hey,
I'll wait.
I'm in the depths of it. Okay. So oh man, I love this conversation so much. Okay. So I also want to talk about, so you said you worked at a church and you did writing for, so what did you do there? Because I love when I hear people say how they've used their unique giftings in a ministry setting, because so often people think like if they have, especially in the creative space, if it's not music, they think, well, I can't use my gifts, for the glory of God, or I can't use my gifts to build kingdom work. And I remember a couple of months ago, I had Scott Erickson on the show. If you know Scott, love Scott, also a brilliant writer. But I remember he told me how he used to be on staff at a church and he would paint while the preacher was preaching. And so every Sunday he would live paint what the sermon was about. And I just was like, that is amazing. Because again, it's so unique. And by the end of the sermon, he would have a painting that sort of represented what the sermon was about. And I thought that was so powerful and such a cool and unique way to exercise a gifting like that for the glory of God. So I would love share with us what was that you were doing on staff at this church in writing, and I'm just again I'm nosy.
Yeah. So I did not have any intention of actually using writing for ministry. Like I didn't think I would work for a church. It was a shocker. Not because I didn't love the Lord, but just because I thought I would graduate with this degree and, be a professor and write books in my corner, that sort of thing. But it was a large church. And so they had one staff position for a writer, and it was somebody who would, be it was a very creative church. And so, it's not always like that, but this is the kind of church where they would change the whole design and branding and the sets and the videos, everything would change every few weeks. So there was a lot of creative talent needed to make that happen. And so I was just literally hired to be a senior writer on staff. That was my job. And I started to, as soon as I got in, because of my experience at art school, I was already very comfortable working with designers and people who were building things. And so immediately, I took that job and started, I was just looking, talk about nosy. I was so nosy with the designers and the people who were hammering things together. Let me learn. And so I spent a lot of my time training and also creating alongside them, because what I realized as a creative is people talk about collaborative work a lot, which I love. I especially love collaborative work when you still sort of have a lane. And so, you know what I mean? And so we all kind of knew what we had to, what our takeaway was going to be. But when you could work alongside each other, it made it so much better, and it cleaned up the process. It was more efficient and it was way more fun. And so, I don't know, I was writing things for printed materials. I was writing scripts that would be, used for the video. I created these really immersive prayer experiences, 30 minutes to an hour. People would walk through and go into different kind of scenes and just spend time with God or process something. That was a part of what I was doing. So that kind of became that designing experience type work. We got into the camping events. That was all through the church as well. So, we were driving tractors and setting up dumpsters and portalets and decorating and trying to make it beautiful. So it was very hands-on, gritty, and writing and designing at the same time.
I think that is so cool. Like I said, I am just fascinated by hearing different unique stories of people using their giftings in such cool ways to bring people closer to the Lord. I think it's awesome. Absolutely awesome. Okay, I want to shift gears just a little bit. And I want to talk about Haven Magazine, mainly because, there's a couple of reasons. One, I think it's really cool when you come up with an idea for a print publication, you're like, I'm going to do it. Two, I love anthropology. And so the fact that it was in anthropology is really cool. In fact, when I worked retail for a little while back in 2009, 2010, I worked in anthropology. And
no wonder we're kindred.
I know. I loved too that there was, many people don't know this, but if you work in anthropology, you would know this. And I think some anthropology, like maybe nerds, is that the word? I don't know. Aficionados would know this. So. Is that they have an entire position on staff that's like an artist that just designs the windows at Anthropologie. Yeah. And the girl that worked on staff at our Anthropologie here in Durham was just unbelievably talented. And I just remember I would have conversations with her and I'm just like, what is that like that because again, I'm not a visual artist. Like I can't paint, I can't sculpt, nothing like that. But she was so talented. I was like, what is this like where your entire job full time, like is to design and create these displays in the window of this store? And she was like, she was saying how as a kid, she could have never, like she would, paint and color and draw and make things all the time. And it would drive her parents crazy. And she was like, if I had known that one day this would be my full-time job, I would just be like, Mom, Dad, this is worth it.
Which isn't that remarkable?
Isn't it?
Yeah. Yes, I love it. And some of my friends have done that job too.
It's
I'm
so
just
cool.
like, oh my word, you guys, you blow me away.
It's so cool. Okay. Yeah. Okay. So to talk to us about like, where did the idea for the magazine come from? What was that journey like? All the things.
Okay. So I should drop back to the church job for a second. So one of the things that I also had to learn to do, and I think this is a great skill to have, but it's just learning how to take on other people's voices, right? Like it's not writing first person for a church. I learned how to write for a brand that was writing for their demographic was like male in their 20s and 30s. Right. And so I quickly had to learn like how to shift tone and, figure all this stuff out, how to ghostwrite, how to write for a brand that wasn't like, it wasn't just like falling off a log for me. So as far as like aesthetics or, that sort of thing. So after years of doing that, I kind of got to a point where I hit a wall. And I realized, I'm like, what do I sound like? If I was choosing something just because I loved it, what would I choose? Not because, so that's kind of like that scary point where you're like, I've become a little lost. And then also the point like where I decided, I was like, well, then I just have to, I'm going to figure that out and I'm going to make something. I wanted to make something concrete. I love tangible things. I decided after I had already had talented friends in Cincinnati, photographers and stylists and graphic designers. And I just thought, you know what, we could make something together. I know we could make it good enough that it can, be sold off of a shelf. I just felt that. And I really wanted to, I do like dream pretty big. And for me, the big dream was like one day, like I would just want this on the shelf of Anthropologie because that is such an immersive experience of a store. Yeah. And I love when books or magazines are alongside other types of objects and textiles and all of this stuff. So that was eventually the goal. We were doing some fundraising for a nonprofit in the meantime. So it had really, a lot of mission attached to it. And then just the desire to push other creatives forward. And so that's what Haven magazine was. The first one was, so we just did two. It was the second one that ended up getting sold by Anthropologie. But, the first one I was really proud of. It was like, our blood, sweat, tears version. I thought it was beautiful and heartfelt. And I was so proud of the people that, we'd all kind of created it together and traveled to India and done stuff there for the magazine. And I ended up talking to, I also have, I try really hard, like not in the striving, but like I will work really hard to get something somewhere, especially if it's like on behalf of others as well. And so I was like, Molly, any way I could just try to get this in front of the people at Anthropologie, I was trying it. for instance, I had like a somewhat related, like a great uncle in Philadelphia. And I was like, can you hand deliver this to their headquarters?
Oh my gosh.
But it has to be wrapped this way. When it comes out of the package, when I mail it to you, can you like, make sure it looks good, so all of these things, all like just trying to get it into the right hands. And eventually it did. And I lucked out by having a great phone conversation with a woman who was way high up at Anthropologie. And she was like, I've looked through this. She's like, there's a lot of raw talent here. And she's like, but you need to be ready to do another version. It's not quite there. And it wasn't. It needed some finessing. And she's like, and I think you also need to, she's like, I see your heart in this publication. And I think your heart is home. And I think you're a little afraid to push it further into that because maybe you're worried it won't, hit a mark somewhere or something. But she's like, I think you need to go in the direction that I feel it pulling anyway, which I assume is your heart. And she was right. So I'm, crying on the phone with this woman from Anthropologie who I've never met. And I took her advice and went back to the drawing board, did a second version. And not that Anthropologie is the be all end all, but that was a goal to hit, and we hit it. And I was proud of that.
I think that is the most inspiring story. And honestly, it really encouraging because number one, you set this goal for yourself and then you hit it like almost immediately, which is like also makes me kind of hate you a little bit. I'm just kidding. I don't actually hate you. I don't. I think it's incredible. But what I love is your grit and your tenacity and your ability to say, okay, this is something I want, and I'm going to do literally whatever I can to make it happen. And that includes calling my great uncle in Philadelphia. I mean, I love that. And it encourages it. Honestly, it's even if this word isn't for anybody else, like it really encourages me just thinking about some of the things that, I want to do with, as I'm right here in the thick of writing a book for the first time and how kind of terrifying that is, but then also dreams and goals that I have for it. And not because I want to make my name famous, but because I really, truly want the people that don't know the freedom of what life and the joy of what life can be like when you have faith in Christ. Like, I want that so badly there are people in my life that don't know the Lord, and I didn't grow up knowing the Lord, and the story of what he did in my life is pretty unique. And so I just like so badly want the people in my life and the people that I don't even know, that don't know what freedom and joy can really feel like. That's my motivation, is like, it's not to make my name famous. It's at all. But I have these like crazy, weird, big goals, and I sometimes I feel I get afraid to say them out loud. Do you know what I mean? And so I feel like for you had this for just this something as simple or as complicated as creating a magazine, and you're like, I want this to be on the stores or on the floor of Anthropologie, and you're like, I'm going to do whatever I can to make that happen. I love it.
Thank you. I know, isn't it strange? Like some stuff you have to work so hard for.
Yes.
But when you have, like you said, like when your goal is out, like, I mean, it's your goal, so it's still a part of you. But like when it lives outside of you, it's so sustaining that way. Like I found whenever I get off course from that, like I realize, man, I don't have the tenacity to go after that. Like, if it's too inward focused or just off track, you have to also be choosy on what you're going to run after, because running takes a lot of capacity, a lot of your time. And then I would say like some stuff like ends up feeling more like falling off a log, you work super hard in one direction, and then a door that you just opens, and I'm like, what? I didn't work for that one. And it just opened.
I'm going to take a break from my conversation with Liz to thank our partner of the show, and that's Mama Suds. Mama Suds has been around this place for a long time. I'm such a big fan of their products. I've had the head mama, Michelle Smith, on this show, so you can even go back into the archives and listen to that conversation. She's amazing. I love supporting a mama-owned small business, but most of all, her products are legit. Is that what do the kids still say that? Do the kids still say legit? Let me just tell you, we have used their products personally in our home for years. Everything from their all-purpose household cleaner to their Castile soap to their toilet bombs, stain stick, all of it. I love it. Not only is every ingredient safe and non-toxic, but they actually are effective. They actually work. We love them. I want you to check them out. Go to mamasuds.com and use the coupon code Molly, and that will get you 15% off your order. Now back to my conversation with Liz Bell Young. And so often we look at people's quote unquote success stories and we think it's a overnight success. And, somebody might even hear you, oh, well, she got it in, on the floor of Anthropologie, on the second try.
Yeah.
So it's an overnight. No, because it was years and years and years of talent and grit and improving your craft and hard, like you said, literal blood, sweat, and tears, like pouring into it. And so it's all those things that you don't see. And I love that meme that sometimes you'll see that goes around the internet where it talks about there's a picture of a glacier and you see what you see above the surface might only be a little bit, but all of what's happening beneath the surface is all of that work that goes into your craft and things like that. And I actually had somebody, believe it or not, in my Instagram DMs say something, I think it was meant to be well-intended, and I'm paraphrasing, but it was essentially kind of being a little passive aggressive about the fact that I'd gotten a book deal. And, oh, well, congratulations to you, yada, yada. And I'm like, dude, I've been doing this for 17 years. I've been writing and grinding and not I hate that word grinding. But you know what I mean? Just working behind the scenes, trying to, I started a blog on LiveJournal in 2005. No, you know what I mean? I started my blog on WordPress and taught myself how to code and all these things before anybody was ever reading it. And so, over a decade of work behind that. It's the same thing for you. It's all these things that go into your craft and go into making you better at what you do, so that when the opportunity that you've been praying about or dreaming of, or, whatever you want to say, whatever you want to call it, when the opportunity comes your way, you're prepared.
Absolutely. Oh, so much so. And I was thinking about that the other day because you, especially I don't know, a decade ago, you would hear a lot about all the failures before you get to the success. And I didn't really identify with that because I wasn't a big, I didn't see things as black and white maybe, but oh, that was a failure. Oh, that was a failure. I didn't really see it that way. More just oh, I didn't get it that time, or I didn't get that. I didn't get accepted by that writing program. That kind of broke my heart. Oh, didn't get that scholarship that I needed. Didn't, all the things that I didn't get. And then sometimes you get it. And I also think, and I know, Molly, it's you kind of have to grow up a little bit, I guess. But just willing to honestly celebrate other people, even if they get it right away.
Yes.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'll just be more excited and that whole, there's plenty of space for all of us.
Thank you.
One boat, many rowers.
Yes.
I would be okay, Molly, if you just said, I just got a book deal and I started working on it yesterday. That's exciting. What a miracle. We should all be wanting these miracles.
Thank you. Thank you. I actually really appreciate you saying that. Yeah, because you're right. There's totally two sides of the coin, and it's almost leads us to another conversation for another day, but it's almost this poverty mindset of well, if you have success, then that means that I cannot, when that is not the case. And, I was saying to my husband a couple of, last week, because my birthday was last week, and I went out to a couple of my friends surprised me with just a dinner. I mean, it wasn't a surprise. It was just more hey, be at this place for dinner. But I didn't know who was going to be there, if that makes sense. And so, and I remember I got home and I was just teary-eyed. And I said, I'm so grateful, because I turned 37. And I said, I'm so grateful for the friendships that I've found in the last few years, because I feel like I'm at the best place I've been in a really long time. With friends, and because, making friends as an adult is really hard. And I have this group of friends that now I feel like there's no competition. It's not like, haves and have-nots. It's just a genuine excitement for each other, encouragement of one another, like willingness to have hard conversations, or willingness to encourage one another in our marriages or in our businesses, or, we can call each other when we have really hard days. And, this is almost like a little bit of a digression, but the point is that it's so important to not worry about the voices of like the person in my DMs who's like being,
that's right.
Because it can be really easy, especially I'm raising my hand here as an Enneagram 2, to take things like really personally. And when I am unhealthy in my two-ness, I can, I can really take words like that person in my DMs to heart and put more weight on those words than I do the people in my life that actually matter, that are cheering me on. And, even if it was a quote unquote overnight success situation, like how much that, that it doesn't matter. Like, let's encourage each other. Let's cheer for each other. Let's see each other succeed and do great things. And anyway, it's a little bit of a digression, but I hope you hear my heart on that.
Yes. And I am so glad you found those people, and and happy birthday. I'm glad they celebrated you.
Thanks. I'm not honestly a big birthday person, but I didn't used to be, but now I'm more of the, like, I just want to be with my people on my birthday. Yeah. You know what I mean? Anyway, I could go on another, like, because so often we get afraid of turning older, of getting older. I'll be like, I'll hear people be like, I don't want to turn 40, blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And I think just the last couple of years, some people dear in my life, have gone to be with the Lord early. And I think about, even as I get closer to the age my mom was when she died. And I think about, just all the loss that we've felt in the last couple of years. And I think, man, growing older is a privilege, and not everyone gets to turn 37. And so it's just really shifted my perspective on aging. I'm not saying that I love the fact that it like hurts to turn over in bed sometimes. I'm like, why do my knees hurt right now? So I'm like feeling the age a little bit, and I keep thinking, like, I'm only 37. Should things hurt this much? Like, I don't know if they're supposed to hurt this much right now, but they do. You know what I mean? Anyway, that was a little bit of a tangent there, but truly, So I think that's why birthdays now I just see as, I want to be with my people.
Yeah.
And I saw something that, oh man, see, Liz, see, this is what happens. This is what I got. Is I saw something the other day and I went, man, you're so right. And it was like, so often the things that we say at funerals should actually be said at birthdays. Because we leave a lot of things unsaid. And I've tried to do a better job in the last couple of years to just affirm people in my life that I love and tell them like how they've impacted me or why I love them. Just on a regular basis, to just send them a text box and be like, hey, thanks for like always making me laugh, or thanks for being there for me when, in this situation or whatever. And I don't know who this is for that is listening right now. My encouragement to you is just right now, like send a text message to somebody in your life that like tell them something that you would say at their funeral. Maybe that sounds really morbid, but
yep. No, I agree with you.
Yeah. Okay. Anyway, sorry. total tangent, Lizbelle Young.
Tangents are fabulous. I love rabbit trails.
We love it. And my listeners that have been around for, I mean, we're in the 300s episodes here.
Yeah, you're safe with them.
They know. They're just like, there she goes. And I think that's why they hang out, is because you never know what you're going to get. I've interviewed some people that are like super well known, and then I've ended up talking to them about like chickens dying, and so you never know. It's unpredictable. Okay, so let's get back to writing conversation, because you are writing a book as well, and so I want to hear. What can you share with us? Because I don't want you to like,
say too much.
You don't want to say too much, but you want to like give just enough to get people to be like, ooh.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I should have asked Joy what I'm allowed to say. I have no idea. I haven't signed a contract yet, but I found a publisher who I'm crazy for, and we're going to sign soon. So that's really fun.
Oh yeah. You don't have to say who, but you don't have to,
Yeah. So yeah, I'm working on that, and the book will be called Haven, because, that's the umbrella that I put over the work that I care about and the heart that I want to share. And so it's about creating spaces for people with hospitality and with opening your door, and with, whether that's in conversation or a dinner party or any number of experiences. I'm still kind of exploring how I'm going to capture that within each chapter. But just this notion of haven and creating calm and steady places for people to sort of, just kind of gather themselves again, step out of the chaos of the day, and find something sturdy to lean against. This is the kind of stuff that my heart just resonates for.
Oh,
so that's the book.
Man, we have so much more in common than I even can begin to tell you.
Really, I don't even have goats, and I'm excited that you think that.
I know. Our farm is called Selah Farm, and the word Selah, Selah, comes from the Book of Psalms and a couple of lines in Habakkuk, and it's this really interesting kind of mysterious word for people that don't know. It's this kind of old Hebrew word that really doesn't get used anymore, and a lot of scholars kind of believe that the real meaning of it has been lost in translation over centuries or millennia. But what they believe that it means is this idea of pausing, reflecting, resting. And sometimes it's used in because it's obviously used a lot throughout the Psalms. And so some people think like, oh, well, maybe it was like a musical direction, but sometimes it's in there in places where it wouldn't necessarily be a musical direction. So it's kind of this word, but that just hopefully encompasses this idea of breathing, reflecting, resting, and turning back towards the Lord in some way, shape, or form. And so we named our farm that because that was what we wanted. That was our dream and our vision and our prayer for this farm, was that this was a place where people come and they just kind of breathe out. They exhale.
Molly, that's amazing.
They reflect, and we wanted people to feel welcome here. And we wanted people to, we wanted to open our home to whoever, whether it was having people over for a meal or whatever. And, we've been here a year and a half, a little over a year and a half. And that has been true, and even far and above what we could have ever asked or imagined. I mean, we've held some of our church services here, which is just like not anything that we would have ever imagined 2 years ago. And so that has been so cool to see just the seed, the beginning of what is going to be possible. And so I can't wait to read your book, because that is, it's a process. It's by no means have we arrived. But that is our goal, is creating a space, creating a Selah for people, creating a haven, to use your word, for people to come and be loved on and feel loved, and to rest and have fun and laugh. And, I always say like a place where you can laugh, cry, and laugh till you cry, and cry till you laugh. It's just like feeling all of those ranges of emotions with the people in your place. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yes. Oh, I love that. Man, I wish Durham was just a little closer. I'd be over there in a half an hour.
I know.
Well, and so I think a lot of people, especially right now, maybe this has always felt like the case, but just, are craving sort of these open arms, open doors. I think we are seeing how much we need that. And the other thing that I, think and care a lot about is just making sure that the pressure is kind of taken off scenarios like that. Like, I know with this idea of hospitality, a lot of people feel like, well, I don't have enough, or my kitchen isn't good enough to bring someone in for a cocktail.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have enough time. I have so many little kids and I can barely make time, for myself. And so I've been thinking about this idea of hospitality with what you have. And just this idea of like, whether it's 10 minutes, whether it's, the extra coffee that you brewed in the morning that you can run out to a neighbor who's pulling weeds, or the postal worker, or, just being okay with, okay, this isn't a performance. This is not like a host show. Like, this is just about loving people in simple and thoughtful ways with the time that you have, with the space that you have, with the house that you have, with the car that you have. I don't know.
Yes.
So this stuff is exciting me.
Have you read Rosaria Butterfield's The Gospel Comes with a House Key?
No.
Okay. So you need to read that.
Okay.
And so it's called The Gospel Comes with a House Key. It's by Rosaria Butterfield. She actually, it's funny enough, somebody in Australia recommended, a shout out to Sarah Ann. I know she listens to the podcast. But Sarah Ann is actually, I think she was the first one to recommend the book to me. And then I started reading the book, and Rosaria Butterfield lives in Durham, which I just think is hysterical.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah. So, and I haven't read any of her other books, and there's some stuff in it that I'm like, I kind of like, you just kind of sift through and you leave some of the stuff that you're like, I don't know about that. But, but in general, like, it's this idea of this gospel-centered hospitality, radical hospitality. And like, what does that look like? And how do you preach the gospel to people just through simple hospitality, opening up your home. And she talks very much about that idea of like, you don't need to have a fancy kitchen. You don't need to have, a big home. Like, here's ways that you can show radical hospitality to people. But it kind of reminded me of that a little bit. Different, very different, but also just a similar heart behind it, if that makes sense.
Yes.
But yes, oh man, I cannot wait to read your book. And I will say, as somebody I've been following you on Instagram for a couple of months now, and just even reading your words in Instagram captions, I can't wait to read your words in a book because you are gifted. You're so gifted.
You, Molly.
And so thank you for your vulnerability and for putting that out there.
You're welcome. It's not easy, is it?
It's not. It is not. It's sometimes
I'd rather be in a shell, but it's okay.
Yeah. Okay, Liz, I know we're running out of time, but I want to get to our get to know you round. But before we do that, is there any just kind of like last words of wisdom, just things you're working on? Just how do you want people to connect with you? Any or all of the above?
Oh, somebody could send me nail polish for my other 9 nails.
If I had a bell right now, I would be like, ding, 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 ding. You just made the perfect callback. We can just end right there. That was amazing. I love it so much. I'm actually I'm going to mail you nail polish. What color was it? Tell us.
It's lavender. It's so pretty. It's just, I can't even tell you the name because the bottle's gone.
I love it so much. Liz, this is fantastic. Okay. So, and for the listeners, I will have Liz's contact, her contact information, her mailing address, her cell phone, all of that. Right. I'm just kidding. I meant like your socials, your webs, how to connect with you on Al Gore's internet. I will have that in the show notes. Liz, this is the portion of the show where we ask some just fun, lighthearted, get to know you questions. Not that we haven't already been getting to know you over the last 50 minutes, but now we ask some fun questions. So are you ready?
Yes.
Okay. Question number 1. Of all of your pet peeves, which one is the strangest?
Oh my gosh. Water on public bathroom sinks. Like I always wipe that up.
Yeah.
I feel so sad when it's covered.
Yeah.
You know, that's uncomfortable for people. Wipe up your water.
Wipe up your water. Clean up after yourself. Mine is like my equivalent of that. I mean, that also drives me crazy, but mine is like the people who won't put their shopping carts back. But like, that's like the same. It's like, why'd you leave your shopping cart on this median when there is a cart corral right there? We could just push
I know. I just pretend that all of those people have babies in the car and they can't go far and they already like loaded them.
You're so much nicer than me. Okay. Question number 2. What song do you have to sing along with when you hear it?
Oh, that's great. I've been loving Penny and Sparrow. I don't know if you listen to them. Eloise, Bon Iver. There's so many that I sing a lot. Our car is a lot of singing. So I'm not very good at that question because I could just rattle off, 20.
Love it. Okay. What was your favorite TV show to watch growing up?
Oh, am I allowed to say as a teenager?
Yeah. Yes.
I loved Felicity, Carrie Russell. She was like artsy, then went to college and you followed her journey. I mean, all-nighters for me watching that.
So good. Yes. That really sends me back. That's a throwback. Love it. Yeah.
I'm also like 10 years older than you.
No, it's okay. But I remember it. I remember Felicity. It's cool. I like it. I'm here for it. Okay. And then my last question is the question I ask all my guests. And that is, Liz, what does it mean to you to run a business with purpose?
Okay. I think it means paying attention to the Holy Spirit for redirection. And that has to require holding it fairly lightly. And even though I've talked about like working really hard and running hard, which I will do and do, I also feel like it's very critical if you're going to run a business with purpose to listen,
Absolutely. So good. Liz, this has been so much fun. Such a pleasure. Thank you for being here. Thank you for your patience. Thank you for going down rabbit trails with me. You are a joy and a delight.
Anytime.
And I'm grateful for you.
Thanks, Molly. This was a lot of fun for me too.
Gosh, Liz is phenomenal. Such a big fan of hers. I cannot wait to read her book, Haven. I don't know when it comes out, but I will be sure to let you guys know when it does. I would love to know what you loved about this episode or something that you learned. Will you let me know on social media? You can tag me at Still Being Molly or at Business with Purpose Podcast on Instagram and Facebook. And be sure to give Liz some love. I will have all of her information in the show notes. As always, thank you for listening and tuning in and week out. Head on over to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, wherever you listen, and click that subscribe or follow button to make sure you never miss a new episode of the show. And while you're there, would you just take a moment to leave a review? Leaving a review really does help the show, and it helps me to know what you're liking and how the show is personally impacting you. Thank you to the team at Third Wheel Media for producing this show. And as always, go do something good with purpose on purpose.